Hey guys, we got a 82 Mustang 30250. Got the water pump off. I got a video on that. You can check it out if you need to. Take the fan and shroud off. A couple of hoses. Bracket. Water pump. That's what I've done so far. Got my coolant bucket down there. Alright, so timing cover. You get a couple of tricky bolts down in here, but the rest, they're pretty much straightforward. Got a couple coming up from the oil pan. See, we got our fuel pump there. It's all gunky. I'm gonna clean that up, get those bolts out. I think I'm gonna start off with taking that harmonic balancer off, so I'm gonna get it lifted in the air, and we'll do that real quick. Alright, this is our harmonic balancer puller all set up. I took off the outside of the harmonic balancer, the outer layer, the pulley. Right there it is with 4 bolts. The size with those bolts. Oh, we had a 9/16 on those. 9/16. Then we took off the center bolt with the impact. Got 1 inch. It was a little sloppy. It's probably a 15/16. So now we got the harmonic balancer puller set up. Got a couple of videos on using these. I put a few nuts for spacers because those bolts I had with my puller kit were really long. See, got a bunch of different bolts. So this has, once you take those 4 bolts out, you can thread bolts in the harmonic balancer. You can put all 4 on or just 2, whatever you want to do. So I got 2 of them set up. This I'm going to turn and it's going to pull that harmonic balancer out. And that's how we get it out. Alright, we got some bolts out from here. We got 2 of them coming up from underneath the oil pan. And all 4 of these bolts were loose. That's probably why it's leaking oil. We've got 1/2 inch everywhere, except for 7/16 on this one and that one back there. We had to take a little bracket off from here. Somebody's put an eliminator pulley on. There was a little bracket, took that off. So this is all loose now at the bottom. We're not gonna worry about that fuel pump yet. Now it's time to drop it down and get those bolts up top that are kind of hidden around here. All right, we got the AC out of the way. Just had to take these 2 bolts out. I used 13mm, 1/2 inch was a little tight. And just set it up there. That allows us to get to this bolt real easily with a ratcheting wrench. You see my ratcheting wrench right here. I can get to the other bolt with a ratcheting wrench this way. And that's how we get those 2 top bolts out. Got our timing cover off. It did not want to come off easily. You want to be careful about where you pry, how you pry. You don't want to crack that. So I just worked my way around it real carefully. See, the timing cover's hanging down from that fuel pump. So we have good access to these nuts now. So that's why I left it on there. Here's our timing chain. It's all sloppy, super sloppy back and forth. So we're gonna be replacing that. So see, get this fuel pump off and get our timing cover all cleaned up. I'm gonna replace this timing cover actually. See the big old chip here? Nasty. These timing covers like to rot away. So we'll get a new timing cover for her. And the harmonic balancer is pulling apart, this rubber. So we'll get a new harmonic balancer on her too. Good time to check for some crankshaft in play. This crankshaft, I could push it in and out with my hands a little bit. So might be looking at dropping the oil pan, put some new bearings in there. We'll see. Let's get this job done. We got our motor timed. You got a little dot here on the cam, right there. Lines up with this keyway and a little dot on the crank. They're pointing straight at each other. This tooth fits in between this tooth. That's in time. Got the camshaft bolt out. It's got that fuel pump accentuator there. The one hole goes through the middle of the cam, the other one through the dowel of the cam. So now that that's out, we can start working this cam sprocket off, change our chain and gears. But I'm going to take this off. See, I got rags stuffing in the oil pan. I'm going to start cleaning up the timing cover gasket, oil pan gasket. Use a little razor blade, and I've got this handy tool, gasket remover tool. One of my favorites. Right there. Gasket remover disc on it. Get this all cleaned up. Got a new chain and sprocket on there. Put your crankshaft sprocket on first. Got the little dot right there with the keyway. Wrap that chain around the cam. Line the dot on the cam up so it's pointing that way. Just slide it over that dowel. Tighten that cam bolt with the accentuator on it. 45 foot-pounds. Got the gasket area all cleaned up. So I'm ready to get this timing cover back on. Our timing cover is ready to install. Got the new seal in there, crank seal. We've got our gasket here, goes on the lip of the oil pan. And these guys are a little different, so make sure you grab the right one. And it fits into this tab here and lines up with the bolt holes. And that's the other part of the oil pan gasket right there. So you want to put all this together so that no gaskets slide. So I'm going to put black RTV everywhere to keep the gaskets in place for when I try to set it in here smoothly. You don't want any of those gaskets shifting. Alright, let's do it. Set our timing cover back in place. Gaskets didn't slide at all. There we go. So you're going to start off with lining up these two bolts in the bottom on each side, because that cover needs to come down to line up with your bolts going straight into the motor. See, it's loose. Just once you kind of tighten the oil pan bolts going to the timing cover, then you can loosely fit in all your other bolts. Make sure they are started in the threads. Tighten up those bolts, tighten up those bolts. There we are. We got our little bracket here with the studs. Our bracket's gonna go back to our eliminated air pump there. And if we turn the crankshaft so the keyway is like, that was a little not enough, about 7, 8 o'clock, then you can fit that fuel pump in, the lever easier. And it's tricky to get that back one started. You can see I have it started. Got that one almost tight. To get that back one to tighten down, you're gonna want to take off your oil pressure sensor. Got a little wiring connector there. Then there's a little hex down in there. You take that off, then you can go straight into that bolt on that fuel pump. Yeah, now it's time to get our water pump back on. Water pump's back on. We got some new gaskets, put a little RTV on them to be safe. Got our hoses hooked back up, lower hose, 2 upper hoses, finagle limb on there. There we go, just make sure you put those bolts in the same place they came out. They're different lengths, different shapes. All right. Got a brand new shiny harmonic balancer on there. The old one, the rubber was splitting out of it. We got that torqued down to spec. Now it's time to put, I think we're all done here, down on the bottom. Except for putting that harmonic balancer pulley on. This little guy. We got 4 bolts that go along with it. We're gonna put that on. I think she's ready to come down and we'll work from the top side. Alright, we got the vehicle down again. I've gone ahead and set that big bracket in its place. Got to kind of move the power steering bracket because it swivels. Sometimes it's not easy to line up. This wasn't too tough. Got my AC put back into place. Bolts aren't tight yet. Just make sure you put all your hardware in the right spot for this bracket. And go ahead and get it tightened down now. Got our bracket all tightened down, AC tightened down, AC plugged back in up there. Cool. So now we just got to put that water pump pulley on, clutch fan and shroud. Shroud clips on at the bottom of the radiator. Bolts in through there. We slip that pulley. Clutch fan on, tighten them down together with the shroud around it. Put our belt back on. We'll put a little pry bar right here. Pull this tensioner back, get the belt routed on there. We gotta fill up our coolant. Make sure we get all the air out of the coolant system. Call it a day.